ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues. Thank you again for being so patient and waiting for me a year to actually give this presentation. Anyway, the last year gap was something which I'd rather forget. Nevertheless, as Mike said, happy star, as I used to call her, lucky star, because there was not just moving commodity and moving cargo, and there was more in dealing with the human factor. I was thinking quite a bit how I should present this thing. Should I go and give you this Discovery Channel version, nice, smooth, without any flaws? And I think for benefit of all of you, I think I should give you a story the way it went. So I apologize if I offend any parties up there, any shipping companies or people I may mention. It's all a good faith. The reason I want to talk about the way the project went. We as surveyors, many of you handle heavy lift. Many of you have been exposed to heavy and difficult weather conditions in various places of the world. There's nothing unusual. This one for me, because I have a pleasure to handle this thing from the beginning of the end, when it started in China, then a discharging point in Quebec. It was interesting. I just try to walk you through it, and I'll give you a story as it went. We have some, just give you a little warning on the second slide, because slight technical difficulty here. We had embedded YouTube short video, which unfortunately we tested yesterday. It worked. Today doesn't want to play. It's computers for you. Could be me too, but we try to juggle between, on the second slide, between the two screens. I'll try to do as much as I can here. The project entitled transportation of 2 complete ship loaders with wharf conveyors and other peripheral equipment from Nansha, Guangzhou province in China to Point Nua, Sept-Îles, and Quebec. Commodity was carried on charter vessel, Happy Star, from a big Dutch heavy lift shipping company, one of the major players of the market, which I'm sure many of you heard of. Happy Star was actually built and tailored around that particular project. The challenge of the project was actually discharging it, because not just this discharging, the finger pier, which was expected where we discharged the cargo and assemble as she goes. There's simply no room for any shore cranes unless we would bring the float cranes in order to handle. Therefore, Happy Star had to shift around it, and the tolerances, and we want to ship our, everything in the same load. So as the ship was being built and cargo was being built in Nansha under supervision of Sandvik Construction and Mining Company of Canada, they built this thing up there in China in the process of 2 years from beginning to finish. They work tirelessly to accommodate that commodity and being able to place on one vessel. The voyage took from Nansha to Sept-Îles 45 days. The vessel covered 12,000 nautical miles in various weather conditions from bed to wars, and end up eventually in an ice pack. As I said at the beginning, that entire project was massaging the human factors, which subsequently caused lots of delays. We were initially planning to execute the project and leave China in August the same year. However, because of various issues, that didn't happen. And if somebody asked you why would you even sail to, those ones who know Eastern Canada in the winter, which average winter condition, with temperatures soaring to -37 and wind chill factor. It's very desolate, and to work in those conditions and offload such a heavy cargo, handle steel, and work even outside is rather hard exercise to accomplish. We come back a little bit, back to Happy Star. It was the newest, still is, newest vessel in the fleet, equipped with 2 Heisman deck crane with the combined capacity of 1,800 metric tons. It means they can load in tandem, which we needed certainly for those cargo, because our ship loaders waiting, although at the beginning they were calculated with 920 tons, by the time we were ready to load them up, they were exceeding 960 tons. Because construction teams, since the vessel was delayed, they started adding different peripheral equipment to it. If you think about that ship loader, I think we put around 27 tons just of hydraulic fluid in on one unit. And everything was assembled, tested up there with a variety of things which there were not even a scope of documents, and we had a really hard time to recalculate against stability properties for those lifts. I can't probably say enough about Happy Star. Very unique in design, versatile vessel. Besides the 2 Heisman cranes, which are placed on completely open deck, and was like looking at the aircraft carrier without no obstructions. So we had the ability to actually place the cargo, which protrudes forward above the forward accommodation and overhangs over the stern of the vessel, which people in Panama were very concerned about it when she arrived at the Gatton locks. And we don't really have a vessel which overhangs over the locks. Somehow it fit. Some tolerances of the, mostly down below the decks, we have a conveyor galleries on the twin decks and some heavy items, but as you see, the all big items are on deck. When we were placing those mainframe and ship loaders and tripper cars, in some movements we have only tolerance of 20 centimeters to pass through. So you can imagine the extent of this thing if you're handling something at the end of in tandem mode. The beauty of that particular vessel, it also have a pontoon twin decks, which with loading capacities on a hatch cover, so you can load on deck 15 metric ton per square meter. Very strong items, and twin decks could be adjusted up and down in vertical position. You can create the bulkheads, you can load as you please, so it's very versatile. You can work around the cargo. We had this thing predetermined, set up in predetermined positions, all the galleries. However, some late adjustments had to be made because, of course, during construction, when the building team in China was adding different stanchions and what have you, all of a sudden we realized those stanchions are not on the drawings. So we had to adjust this and that without cutting everything, which presents the challenge as it was. Also, the pedestals of the cranes were lifted slightly in order to accommodate overhang and give us enough reach to be able to offload the cargo in steel over the center of the finger pier was the position of the vessel where it was. And you will see later on, and I will highlight why that was very, very important, especially in the winter time. So again, let's go through commodity. I'm going to repeat this. There were 2 times 1,200 tons complete ship loaders, consisted of elevator, tripper car, and 27 conveyor galleries, 73 components total, and small items, combined weight of 3,000 metric tons on board. It was, there was estimated value. I just want to say $60 million. I think by the time we settled, it was around 80 millions, what they had to pay for it. Wharf construction estimated on 290 millions, rich 330 when the dust settled. Associated costs of discharging in the wintertime conditions, icebreakers, added expenses. Of course, they inflated the pre-estimated costs, which they were calculated for August condition, not the February. One good thing for the project, that cooperation of the port was immense because those conveyors were for Port of Septiles. So we didn't have any problems or delays with getting any longshoremen's or any tugboats, icebreakers, whatever, pilots, whatever was necessary was there instantly. Cargo operation. Right now we're looking at the cargo operations in China, carried out at a GSI shipyard in Longshu Island, Nansha, over 11 days. There was a time which we were able to load this entire shipment from the beginning to the end, to the point where cargo is complete and secure. Unexpected, but we start calculating the weights and the position where the ship was placed. We have to reinforce the dock by placing the steel plates. And those undertaking itself, it took us a couple days prior ship's arrival to prepare the dock for taking up such a load. Because as you can imagine, those 980 tons ship loaders were brought in from other side of shipyard by SPMTs, self-propelled mobile tracking unit. And once they arrive at the dock side, we wanted to make sure that all combined weight of equipment plus cargo on SPMTs the dock could handle. Because nobody could really verify like 100% what we were dealing with. Old dock was moved by GSI, dock, on the dock side, cargo was moved by GSI personnel and SPMTs, handled by Chinese company Fastwin, which I have a great deal of good words to say about those people, absolutely top-notch professionals. You know, they used to work with Mammoth at one point of time at the beginning of their career. Very well trained people, professionals, dedicated. And we had the number of shore cranes to our disposal, which they were assisting in positioning cargo in the desired position for ship's lift. Ship's cranes were utilized to load cargo on board and shift cargo on board the vessel. So from that point onwards, everybody, ship's cranes were utilized totally. There were, of course, cooperation of GSI shipyard riggers working together with the ship's crew. After some lengthy negotiation, we managed to find some common ground to accomplish this project, because at the beginning there was like position of power, I don't want to work. If those guys are on board, we're not going to touch, and vice versa. As you can imagine, and you all been in situation, and there's a little power play that ship's crew are going to do this, and you're not going to touch, you're not going to come on board the vessel because of you can't just handle that. So accomplishing that goal, again, I'm going to emphasize that it took a great deal of negotiation and just finding just common resolution. Because prior ship's arrival, we had a few meetings at the GSI shipyards of some language barrier that we were dealing with the translator, and then we got the people representing Sandvik, and some screaming went on, and basically what's happened, the Chinese staff from GSI shipyard just altogether got up and walked out. Rest could reconvene, and It took a number of days to bring them back to negotiation table. So those are things that, I found myself as a marine surveyor not only handling the warranty issues, but basically trying to talk to a number of people and, just bring them to peace talks. Almost I felt like I'm in southern North Korea. Oh, a bit too far. As you see, there's some substantial lashing, which was required to securely fasten that cargo on board. I just, for curiosity, went to my trusty Mark I notebook, which you can't work without it. Just for your own interest. The picture on the right, you see actually the basis of the ship loaders, combined of 176 points of lashing. We brought 14 40-foot containers full of lashing materials, turnbuckles, or something. So what the crew of the big lift accomplished, the deck crew, which normally would tie up one item, in that short period of time, my hat's off. Very seldom you will see the crew with such dedication to accomplish that. Every single point which you see on board was not only welded, and you get some footings already designed on those hatch covers. However, we had to weld numbers of D-rings in order to provide sufficient lashing for those units. Because, the upper sections of the turntables, if you wouldn't secure them, they would move, there would be play. You can't lock them completely. They were oiled. And of course, that quite a lengthy voyage across the ocean through Panama. And in those weather conditions, which ship have to endure on the way to Canada, we were looking at just every possibility of making sure that that cargo is properly secure. Nothing moved, by the way, by the time we received the vessel at Septil. People. There were a little bit more than Discovery Channel claimed to see. If you watch the mighty ships, this big lift did this, and big lift that, and nobody else was involved. An army of people, which they should be long and long list. And what I was probably most impressed with, which I started with GSI Shipyard, you see the army of the blue cladded people. I've been a number of times in Hong Kong and spent some time in there. I've never been to mainland China, never been to operations like that. GSI Shipyard, through the gate, you get 15,000 people crossing that gate. They have 20 ships being built at the same time. You get the dry docks, which handle 4 ships at the same time. I was there, I think, combined time for around 28 days from the beginning to the end. I see a number of builds which were completed in that period of time. They were just in modules. They were coming overnight and being built. It was really impressive. And those guys, ship's welders, working 12-hour shifts with 1 hour break. When there's 1 hour break, everything stops. But when they work, because I think they realize that if you stop welding and welding correctly, there's another 40 people waiting to replace you. But some of you heard, and especially like in Canada, we had this saying, it's Chinese quality. I can tell you, I see some amazing quality of the product up there. I think if you pay for it, it's like Chinese food, like if you go to a good place, you can get the crappy MSG, or you can get a really high-end Hong Kong food. Ship's crew, especially deck crew, was basically exposed to this bohemian task of handling that many lashing points, and handling all this thing for a period of time was really, really demanding on them. I tell you, it was just a pleasure to work with them. And they were above and beyond their call of duty. They work well with GSI Shipyard personnel, their riggers. and that was just at the Chinese end. At the Setil, when we go eventually there, in Canada, it was the same thing. However, the weather conditions were a little bit less pleasant. I'm sorry if I'm jumping a little bit back and forth from the subjects, but there's lots of items to cover, and we're talking essentially about 2 different projects, and I'm trying to address every issue which was up there. So involved parties, we get the ship's crew, of course, big lift shoreside support, which their cargo planners, get a project supervisor, and another project supervisor, which was brought there just to handle the Discovery Channel crew. I think there was more media than logistics supervisor. Sandvik logistical and support team and project management, which was on the ground, and we arrived to China together prior ship's arrival. SPMT operator, that was Fastwind, that was in China, which we work with, and they were always there whenever we need them. External contractors in Canada, that was in Setil. In China, shipyard workers, riggers, and there were army of them, literally, from hard-working females, which they were going and painting every possible scratch which was encountered. If you were trying to put something, she was going behind you and painting everything. So the guys were just in little spots of paint because they were just going. If you move, she was behind you painting. They were pretty determined. Longshoremen in Canada, of course, working with the other welders and riggers. There were 3 different unions workers we had to deal with. And believe it or not, they work together. Terminal employees and safety staff, that was at the Setil end. Port authorities, which they were automatically involved because there was them who actually was a cargo owner. And of course, a warranty surveyor somewhere at the end of that mess. Coming back to shore support in China, we get some mobile trucks, SPMTs, GSI shipyard personnel and riggers, Fastwind SPMT, warranty surveyors, big lift personnel. That's just the China end. Personal challenges, as I mentioned before, from the beginning of that project, which caused all those tremendous delays, there were some huge issues with language barrier, because even Sandvik on the ground personnel, there were guys who were there for entire duration for a couple of years. They still didn't speak Chinese, so you would have some guys employed by Sandvik, and they were conveying messages, but I strongly believe that somewhere got lost in translation and in between. Regional customs and culture differences, it's coming down to absolutely everything. You have to be very careful when you're pointing fingers at someone, because in different country means completely different things what it means at home. We had a very motivated and Swiss logistical supervisor. She was young, but with total disrespect to elders in Asian country. They just couldn't stand it, and she was very loud, and if they didn't understand her, she was going more and louder and louder. She didn't have a volume control, so that didn't help. Lack of communications, of course, because somewhere there was disconnect. And I have to go through all this thing for you guys to understand why we arrived at that February date versus August, because that was the main thing. They're like, nobody, and of course, somebody would say, why would you not wait for spring? There were dates to meet on the receiving point. GSI shipyard have a completely new build, set up already to start as soon as that conveyor and that ship loader was removed. So they were just spinning tires to you have to move because you're going to be paying for a demurrage. You're supposed to pick this thing up, and there were delays. And it didn't help that the negotiation process, which shouldn't be there, it should be just combined meeting. But you know, like, I think when you put the three people in the same room, there are going to be three different views, especially if you start removing like the ability to communicate in the same language or fully understand what the other side needs or does, and perhaps respect those others. That if the shipyard says, well, we work 12-hour shift, but we stop for lunch. Oh, no, you're not going to have a lunch break. You can take turns. So there was like little things which were escalated. So leadership issues. Wow, everybody wanted to be a boss. I think that this entire thing, to give you a better picture, was like we were trying to make an excellent meal, but you know, I have 5 cooks in the same kitchen, and there was just total mayhem. And we're just trying to find that ability to, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and together we're going to accomplish that goal we're aiming for. Power plays, yes, I'm more important than you. If I'm going to tell you stop, you stop. You can't do this. You can't come to my vessel. We're going to do this our way. And blame culture. If something went wrong, in essence, there was delay, there was not. And never seen so many emails to be sent over, like, especially they were sent overnight. So at the beginning of the following day, there was not discussing anything. It was like trying to clean up the mess. Who sent what to whom last night in different time zone. Because if you see, some stuff was coming up there, like at the end of this project, I was just going and deleting everything because it was just like absolutely pathetic. You know, like I would start reading this thing and it was like, no, we didn't do this thing because, Shep, you have to sign this piece of paper. It was like a legal arbitration. So be careful what you say because there will be email as a follow-up. Damages. I don't know how, somehow, we managed not to break too much. Considering size of cargo and the gear. The only damages which we had was some small light fixtures which we lost, and they were mainly caused by slacked grommets and heavy gear. See those pictures? I was standing there and I was telling them, you're going to break that light. No, we won't break the light. So I was just taking sequence of the picture to finally, when we did this, when we went to the other side of the ship loader, they agreed to remove that light fixture. Because simply design flows, they were put too close to the trunnions. So once you release the grommet, there was enough slack for that grommet to drop down and take those fixtures down. But if you're talking about multi-million dollars cargo that cost of the site, you know, the LED light, which that was just a drop in the water. It was really insignificant. Some hydraulic lines were dislodged from the tracks while lifting due to angles of the lift change. That was mainly caused by shifting and adding more equipment than originally you were anticipating. So because of the delay, the shoreside crew, they started adding compressors, they started adding this and that. So our center of gravity started shifting slightly. So when the lift was pre-calculated, as a bare, let's say tripper car with the walkways, and then somebody put like a couple tons conveyors on the other, and all of a sudden your load starts swinging. So the adjustment had to be made in the last moment just because of those issues. So it was not like we didn't plan that. Some stuff was coming out of the woodwork because the additional equipment was installed. Unloading, the cargo was unloaded with the ship's cranes at Setil and positioned by the shoreside team and the ship's crew in a period of 17 days. Due to complexity of that cargo and its size and the time to shift, and put in the predetermined position, we made total full simulation of that planking issue. As you see, that finger pier was so small, like bringing any mobile crane which would be possibly able to lift those heavy items was absolutely impossible. So we had to shift the vessel several times, and as I said, that was all pre-planned. However, when we offload some of the items, like on the rails, which they're sitting up there on already preset on that finger pier, the hydraulics on the bogies was completely frozen. We were reaching temperatures of negative 37 on the windshield factor, where the maximum the viscosity of the oil was rated to minus 24. Somebody overlooked that. Whoops, you're going to Quebec. So what we were getting at, we would put the item on the rails. We're supposed to shift this thing. We are not able to shift it because basically your bogies are frozen. So now you have to go and start disconnecting them from electrical panels, and then use the loaders to literally shift this cargo front and back to accommodate for next item, because there was not just placing all those items. We had to put them in a sequence, move them, and then throw the conveyor galleries in a predetermined position and start assembling them. So, which is quite exercise. Then you get the ice factor. If you can imagine, when the vessel is standing, you cannot even step outside of the rails because there was solid ice, and we had to come like every night and try to fight the ice, because it was just like the icing effect was just with temperature changes, just almost impossible. As I said, we get full simulation done prior. However, the ice factor was not anticipated in the simulation, so we had to make an adjustment. Also, the frozen bogie was another hindrance in the process. Damage summary on completion. Again, there was some insignificant damages during transit and discharging operations. Some electric circuit distribution boxes covers were torn and subsequently damaged while slacking cargo, grommets, and slings. Some chafing of the paint was noted on the electrical boxes, which was installed, and they were not supposed to be there before. Cable trays were damaged by conveyors, galleries, stacking posts, which they were temporarily assembled to accommodate the two conveyor galleries, and simply that was overlooked. But relatively minor. Key distraction and environmental challenges. Freezing and extreme of the weather temperatures plummeting to negative 37, wind chill factor, icing effect, exposure to element. The shoreside workers and the deck crew, they were working for 1 hour outside. They were going in, and the next team was coming outside in order to even handle those weather conditions. I didn't have that liberty. I was trying to clone myself, but those people who cloned the dolly in Scotland, they were busy. So, but you know, like jokes on the side, that was just really impossible. Like first I realized my camera won't work then more for 10 minutes, and your phone is not working. My pencil, the only, you know, if you don't have a pencil up there, it's not working. I had to equip myself with the literally Arctic boots, because when you're standing on the deck and you're not moving much, you're gonna take a beating. Like you going up there ain't gonna work in this thing. Oh, some other distractions. So those guys were working great. We find a way to work through all the safety meetings, which they were part of the day at the beginning, which you had to go through it by the book, and then we go for the turning of the wheels. And the big lift brought more extra crew on board in order for them to be able to take the turns as well. So they brought some extra crew from the shore side. The one thing which I forgot to mention, because of the Discovery Channel factor, the old guys who were loading from the ship's officers, the key people, at least the deck crew was the same, They were removed in the Panama Canal because the office decided to send the people who were most interested to be on the Discovery Channel show. We're talking about second voyage of the vessel. There was like an only short maiden voyage done from China to Australia after the vessel was built prior to that project, just to test the gear. We coming back, you get the officers who did tremendous great work. They supposed to offload this thing. We come into Panama, now you guys go home. The office people are gonna come, they watch some videos, and you're gonna be working with them. Thanks God we had the same crew. You just don't do that. But unless there's exposure factor. Shore, limited dog access, freezing ballast water. You need that ballast water in order to lift those tanks. The big lift was able to shift 800 tons of water in 20 minutes from port to starboard. That thing was lifting that 980 tons in tandem lift. You were looking at the draft marks and they didn't move. You were expecting move, like I just, are we frozen? The ship literally didn't budge. I never seen anything like it. Sail on container ships, sail on heavy lift, there's some movement. That thing hardly budged, like it's just spectacular. But you know, like we had to literally hit the ballast water in order to have that flowing. I know, Michael, I just have to cut it short. Short daylight hours. Basically, after 4 p.m., we were working in the dark. So you're working with the lights, and then generally every day after 4 p.m., we would have a snow. We were working to the point that you could work outside and you could see something. Those Heisman cranes, they're great, but they don't have cabins. They have only joystick controls. The cranes operators are standing outside in the weather element and working them. You can put them on the bridge and working from remote. You won't see the angle. So those guys were standing and doing all this work, just basically standing out as in minus 37. We were doing everything like buying them hand warmers and trying to dress the Filipino crew and get them to work in those conditions. It's tough. It's tough. Safety issues, regulations, multiple jurisdiction, both on board and shoreside. When you come to Canada, you would understand. We got the on shore, you get a workers' compensation board. On dock, you got something else, and we have to go through it. Those safety meetings were either necessary or not necessary, but you know they had to take place, and everybody had to be inducted to be able to walk on dock, get into terminal. I think we spent a day just to do the safety inductions for all crew and personnel. So if you guys all realize how much it costs to bring the vessel, which is on quite a few $1 million per day. So some people were very happy and some people were basically raving mad. Discovery Channel. Oh, I can't forget them. The biggest problem they have, we were talking about drones. They wanted to film with drones. They don't fly in minus 37, at least that cheaper version with Discovery Channel, so they were very disappointed. They supposed to they board the vessel in Panama Canal and stay with the vessel through the passage. They were gonna stay till end of the project on the third day. They were gone. There was no more Discovery Channel crew because they just couldn't handle that. That was like a little bit too much. But you know, they tried. They did some good work. But please, when you watch this thing, it's a great mighty ship video. Just at least for a moment, think about those other people who are involved in this thing, because I wish I actually wrote to Discovery Channel, and this is a great show, but could you just give the credit to the people? And they were doing interviews with everybody, but you know, they were not even mentioned once. Learn lessons. There were many. And as I said, about human factor, how to trying to work together. And you would find yourself not only as a handling warranty, surveying issues, but you handling, if you wish and you choose to do so, if your mission is as such. There's really also massaging to do, and you know, like I found this the accomplishment of this thing because of all those challenges was quite big, and it leave you with warm and fuzzy feeling, considering it we didn't drop anything in the drink, nobody got killed, and nobody except maybe drone fall once in the ice, and they were very disappointed. But other than that, where you're handling the steel product, which you cannot even touch with your bare hands because your skin would peel off, they were doing good. And we didn't have any accident with the crew, which was amazing too. So neither from shore side, nothing happened. So that was lucky star. Any questions?
Do I understand that there were some engine problems while she was en route? Did that cause any anxious moments? No.
That's what's on Discovery Channel. Ship was delayed.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yes, and that was pre-calculated, but they have to show something. So, but I prefer to talk what's happened on shore. I wasn't involved in the sea passage, but it was not relevant to that project whatsoever. So.